Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. Today I am joined by my friend Emily from Empowered Fits Gym. She is a powerlifter and personal trainer. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, where are you from?
Originally or right now?
Originally.
So I was born in Bolton. And then I moved to Surrey when I was like 5 years old.
Okay.
And then came to Wirral when I was 11.
Okay. Whereabouts in Surrey were you?
Walton-on-Thames.
Oh, nice.
So not far from like Woking, that kind of area.
Pleasant sort of area, isn't it?
Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
And then you came to the Wirral. Sorry about that.
Oh, I love it here.
Do you have Wirral family? Is that what brought your family up here? Or?
So my mum was married and split with her partner, and her new partner lived like Greasby. So
okay.
we just picked the Wirral as our new place to come and live. And
Sound.
Yeah.
And you've been here ever since. Which school did you go to?
Pensby Girls.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, just by Greasby. That would make sense. And what age did you start training?
So I think I was like 21 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe 20, 21.
And what was the inspiration to get into the gym?
So my weight loss journey started a few years probably before I started the gym. I wasn't massively overweight, but I was overweight. I carried my weight quite well. And I got badly bullied online by a group of guys that I was in sixth form college with. And
Right.
I don't think they really knew how much it affected me at the time.
Online through Instagram? And
It was Facebook. Instagram wasn't really a thing, I think,
would they
back
do
then.
it privately through messages or
No.
on
So
your profile?
it was like, so I'd go out with my friend drinking and like there'd be certain bars that take photos of you and things like that. And they would jump on the pages and find the photos of us. And then they would just post really horrible comments and links to like YouTube videos of like trolls and like just nasty things. They were doing it purely for their own egos and to like I understand that now. But at the time it really affected me. And I remember I went to buy myself an outfit and I bought myself some new jeans and they were like a size 16, I think. And they were like this far from doing up. And I sat on my bed, I cried my eyes out and I thought, no, that's it. So I started losing weight and all I did was I just went into a calorie deficit, counted my calories.
What age was that?
It would have been like 2013, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, about 2013, 14 maybe.
And you were at sixth form when this
Yeah,
happened?
sixth form.
Which sixth form were you at?
Birkenhead sixth form.
Birkenhead sixth form, okay.
Yeah. And because I didn't think that the gym was anything I'd ever do, I just stopped eating.
Okay. How did that go?
Well, as you can imagine, I quickly lost a lot of weight. I lost about 4.5 stone within a year.
Do you know roughly what that is in pounds or kilos for people who don't work in stones?
Okay. It's about 2.2 pounds per kilo, isn't it?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
oh, God.
I don't use stones.
I don't know. I use kilos now, but I don't.
Go on, tell me again. What was it? How many stones?
About 4.5 stone.
63 pounds.
63
wow, that
pounds
is a lot
within a year.
of weight.
Yeah.
Because you're not short, but you're not tall.
No, about 5'4" maybe.
Yeah. So that's a tremendous amount of weight to have lost. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously I became very unwell with that.
So you said you were calorie tracking.
Yes.
Do you know what kind of a deficit you put? Do you know what your allowance was every day?
I remember it very well.
Tell me.
I did around 1,000 calories every day.
Right.
And then I'd read about the 5-2 somewhere and I would eat under 500 calories for 2 days in the week.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
For a year?
Yeah.
Oh, you certainly will lose weight like that. You'll certainly lose
I definitely
weight.
did.
Yeah.
I definitely did.
And rapidly too.
Yeah.
What were that's not anorexia, but it's a kind of orthorexia, I guess.
It's a definite disorder of some kind, definitely. Yeah, I would say. It's
probably flirting with anorexia, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Extremely bad body dysmorphia. That's probably the time that I remember having it initially really bad. Well, I didn't remember it at the time, but as I was out of it, I remember that I always felt fat still. I always felt like that girl that was being bullied online. And I would look at myself in the mirror and I'd still see, I know now back at the pictures, I was very skinny. My bones were sticking out and I still had this little kind of pot belly that I was obsessed with that I couldn't get rid of.
Because your poor body was saying, please, not this, not this.
Yeah.
And holding on for dear life.
And that's when I joined a gym because I wanted to do cardio.
We say with an ironic smile.
Yeah.
What age would you have been when that was?
So I think I'm probably approaching my early 20s then.
And you thought, okay, my body has responded to the deficit, but it's not responded in the way I want it to. Let's find another form of self-torture.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So you went and started doing cardio?
Yeah. So I'd do like an hour of a swim and then I'd do maybe like 45 minutes of an incline treadmill and I'd aim to burn 600 calories on that treadmill. Yeah.
And did you increase your calorie allowance during that time a little bit?
No.
Okay, so I'm not going to ask whether you got sick. I'm going to ask, how sick did you get? Like, how long did you maintain that for before you got really sick?
So I maintained it for about 6 months, maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Probably because at that time I was heavily experimenting with different drugs.
But there's not high calorie drugs.
No. But there's drugs that would give you artificial energy.
Oh, those ones. So
yes.
You'd take like ephedrine?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I loved ephedrine, man. It's great.
Cocaine.
Yeah. Cut off the hunger signals for a little while as well.
And then like when I was ready to go to sleep, it'd be diazepam.
So uppers during the day, downers at night.
Yeah.
Massive risk of heart attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long did that? So you managed to maintain? I mean, for people who don't know, that your actual resting metabolic rate, presumably at the weight you were at, would probably have been 1,600 calories.
Probably around that. Yeah.
So then you took off, well, I don't know, 500 calories with the swim, a further 600 with the cardio. Not that we could say that you're definitely burning that, but roughly speaking. So then you're down. Well, you're at. You're really in a deep
big deficit. Yeah.
Were there any internal organ issues or stomach issues that came with that?
Not that I remember.
It's great being young, La.
I definitely remember losing my periods.
Your body went into okay.
Yeah. And
how long into the process did your body switch off the periods? Was that from the calorie deficit or was that from the training?
I think it might have been before I started the gym. I think it was before I started the gym. Yeah.
Like probably 6 months in.
Probably, yeah.
Like
Yeah, something like that.
So they would have been, we're being very medical, they would have been less and less frequent and less strong and then just stopped.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And you couldn't, they would irregular. You couldn't regulate.
Extremely irregular.
Whenever they wanted, they would just come.
I'd bleed every now and again, but it'd be spotting and I'd be like, oh, no period.
You
nothing.
think it's going to happen and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because your body is just going, WTF.
We ain't going to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny, isn't it? How funny, not in a ha-ha way. Interesting. Your body registers that you're in some sort of state of emergency and says, okay, well, fertility can probably go to the wayside right now.
Well, How would I ever manage to carry a baby if I wasn't able to feel my body doing its normal thing, living?
So, I don't know. Well, from orthorexia to anorexia, have you ever been diagnosed with anything clinically?
Never officially, but I'm extremely confident myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you would have been diagnosed positively with?
I think so. I know
it's the same effect. It's the same end result, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same end result. Whether you'd call it bulimic behavior because I'd try and burn off the calories that I would eat, or I'd be obsessed with that. If I ever ate anything over, I'd be obsessed with trying to walk it off to count the calories per steps and all of that kind of thing. So it was definitely bulimic in its behavior.
Yeah.
I would probably suggest anorexia potentially. I was never thin enough, I think, in my mind to call it anorexia, and I don't think it would have been now, but there's definitely, body dysmorphia is there. All of the characteristics are there.
Body dysmorphia is there. I think you'd get the clinical diagnosis of anorexia just through because of the body dysmorphia and just through that iron-willed, I will change my body through restriction approach.
Yeah.
So you get anorexia. You definitely get body dysmorphia. You will get bulimia, as you rightly say, and they would say, I would think.
I suffer with body dysmorphia still now.
Right.
Like that's something that's going to be an ongoing healing process for me for probably a good while now.
It's going to take time. I would think so. I don't think you recover. I mean, it's body dysmorphia ultimately is a self-image issue, isn't it? And self-image is one of those psychological things that is quite resilient to change. It's quite sticky. It doesn't move easily.
Yeah, I'm very aware of that.
Yeah, you're like, why is this not fucking moved? Okay, so 6 months of huge calorie deficit through training as well.
Yep.
And did you achieve the result you were looking for?
Obviously not.
So it didn't actually work? No.
Well, I got to a point where there was nothing else that I could do.
Yeah.
And I still, in my mind, thought that I had body fat on me and there was something that I wasn't doing, that it just wasn't working for me. And I think I realized that there was nothing more that I could give.
Yeah.
Being around the gym environment, I'd be on the treadmill, but you'd see people every day, the same time.
Yeah.
And I'd get questions like, why don't you do any weights? Why are you not interested in this kind of thing?
Okay. Was this from girls or from guys?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah. Mainly guys. The time I go in the gym. So I worked in a bar at this point in time.
Yeah.
And it'd be night shifts or evening shifts. So I'd go to the gym at around 10, 11, middle of the day sort of thing. And it'd be the same guys, regulars there.
Yeah.
Nice guys. And they'd question me about, what I was doing. They probably saw full well, like, this girl is not okay.
Yeah.
Like, we need to try and get her into something a bit more healthier.
Yes.
So I started researching and I read about protein and I looked at, weight training for toning and that idea. And that was something I started to research in my own time. And then I remember going to like a supplement shop and buying my first protein bar, first protein powder.
Yeah.
That was obviously a diet whey.
Yeah,
obviously
of course,
it was diet whey.
Of course.
You believe that's the one, and it was just a very long and gentle process to get me into eating a bit more and trusting that was what I wanted. I ended up coming off all the drugs that I was on.
So the cocaine, the ephedrine, the uppers.
Yeah, I was a party girl and I'd go to raves at the weekend and that kind of thing. So ecstasy was there quite a lot as well. And I realized that I wanted to change my life more positively. So I gently pushed away from a friend circle. I had to end a relationship and I just pushed myself away from that because I knew that it wasn't right for me. I don't think any of my friends knew at the time how much I was doing in my own time and that actually was kind of counterproductive. And I was doing it as an escapism as opposed to, for just a social event. It was not like that at all. So I gently just backtracked away from that scene and allowed myself to research a bit more about, weight training and that kind of thing. And I started to look a lot of women online. There was some like girls that were on Instagram, I think at the time, that were doing sort of bodybuilding-esque type training. And I was like, wow, like they have big legs and their shoulders, their back and bum. And I'd read as well online that if you created a back, it would make your waist look smaller and, looking at the body contours and how to build muscle to achieve a better shape. So that became my focus, and being someone that hyper focuses on lots of things, I really wanted to harness that.
How long ago are we talking now? Is this like 5-6 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
This would have been the time that I didn't really know what I wanted to do for my job. And I started getting into the fitness thing and really pushing for the weight training. And that's when it kind of snuck in the background, the personal trainer thing.
Okay.
I went and did a degree in fine art.
Right.
I thought I wanted to be a tattoo artist.
Oh, cool. Where did you do the degree?
It was with Chester Uni.
Cool.
Yeah. And I loved it, but it just wasn't quite opening the doors for me. And I'm quite an intuitive person. If it's not wanting to give, then it's not the right path for me. So I got a job in a pub, and then I just it just materialized from me being so enthusiastic about the gym. People were asking me about, they'd remembered that I lost a lot of weight, not the process in the middle, but then the process of me then weight training and looking healthier, getting fitter, always in the gym, that the lifestyle that people think, oh, you're doing really well for yourself. And then it just hit me one day that that's what I wanted to do, is I wanted to help people go through the process what I did without those steps in the middle that were quite harmful.
Yeah. Because you could have done, permanent long-term damage to yourself, couldn't you?
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I've known you from around the gym for about 4 years, maybe 5 years. And we started talking about 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, probably about that. Yeah.
Something like that. And even in that sort of period that I've known you, I think 3 years ago, you still weren't quite comfortable with your relationship with food. I remember having a couple of conversations with you.
Yeah.
What was going on around that time?
So the food thing has been a constant thing in the background of my life.
Yeah.
Obviously, I understand how we latch onto food as a coping mechanism, and it's self-soothing and it's an escapism.
Yeah.
So I feel like I needed something subconsciously as a crutch, because I didn't have the drugs, I didn't have the parties, the raves, that kind of thing, and I needed something to kind of decompress. Whenever I was really emotional or stressed or something was going on, it would be I'd binge eat.
Yes.
And that was something that stayed with me right the way up until, well, I suppose now in my timeline.
Okay.
I don't really relapse anymore.
Yeah. Okay. I actually thought maybe a year ago you pretty much gotten your.
I'm pretty much, I would say that I don't binge anymore.
Yeah.
I'd say that I have symptoms of overeating at times, but it's nowhere near like a binge. Like I'm able to stop myself while I feel those feelings.
Just so that I don't sit here looking like the all-seeing eye of Sauron. Also because I am male and you're female.
Yes.
I also took lots of the drugs for many years, lots of them. And I had a really bad cocaine addiction when I used to do security work in Liverpool when I was about 26, and I would snort first thing in the morning, did you ever do that first thing in the morning when you woke up? You did?
Yeah.
Animals. Disgusting. Listen, there's being a cokehead and then there's having cocaine with your coffee in the morning. That is, you've become a wrong at that point.
Yeah, I know.
How long were you in, like, cocaine in the morning? Months? How long were you doing that for?
Yeah, that was probably a good few months.
Yeah.
And before I'd go to work as well.
Really?
Yeah.
And then in work to keep yourself going?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And then I'd be so stimulated, that's when I'd need the diazepam when I got home.
Wow. Okay, so then if you were living that the same way I was, you must have experienced like the same thing where your personality starts to fracture and you become a bit of a weirdo. And
yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
A bit reclusive, a bit twitchy, a bit odd, extremely paranoid.
Yeah.
Felt like people were following me, or like, especially with customers in the pub, I'd feel like I was on a loop quite a lot of the time.
Yes.
So I felt like I'd be stuck in a kind of time zone for a little bit, and then I'd like send myself a bit weird. And
well, pubs can be like that, right? Because you're talking to the same people again and again. And they're saying the same shit again and again. Fucking pubs. Also, so I kicked it, and it took me a weekend to kick it. When people don't believe me, they have an idea with drug addiction. They're like, no, I saw Train Spotting. It's 6 weeks and you shit yourself and then you lie on the floor and you cry and doctors. No, cocaine doesn't stay in your system more than 48 hours. It's predominantly a psychological addiction. And I literally just left the country. I went to Tenerife and lived with drug dealers, ironically enough. But when I got there, I just said, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And cocaine was easy to drop. Alcohol, acid, MDMA, if I wasn't partying, I just didn't care. But food was hard to drop. Mm-hmm. Food is reliable. It's cheap. It's legal. Nobody will judge you for it. They'll judge you if you're fat, I guess. And it works, right?
Yep.
You said self-soothing.
Yeah.
What would you binge eat on, and what was the state, the physiological state that you were looking to get into? What was your favorite binge eating food?
One of my worst ones that I've ever done, which just stays in my mind, and that's when I remember hitting like a real low, and I was like, "What the fuck am I doing?" I ate a full box of Grenade cookies and cream protein bars with a kilo of peanut butter.
Wow, that is impressive.
Yeah.
Wow. How, over a couple of hours? Something like that?
No, that was in one sitting.
Wow.
I just kept going and going and going
And were
going.
you still, this is interesting, were you still getting the pleasure reward centers in your brain were still going, this is yummy, this is yummy?
No.
So by the fifth bar, you're going, fucking hell, I'm dying. Please make it stop.
I feel like it was like an extreme, weird form of self-harm.
Yeah.
Like, as if like I deserve to feel like shit. You're going to feel like shit at the end of it and you deserve to feel like that.
Interesting.
That's how I felt that one especially. That's how it felt.
And was your binging cycle, was it more towards the self-harm? You're a shitty person, you deserve to feel like shit, let's do this?
There was a balance.
Okay.
I think it depended on the emotional triggers and the type of triggers. So if there was something more serious, then they would be worse. And it would be, if I felt like I'd done something wrong, then I needed to be punished for that. And then I'd feel like shit.
Okay.
But if it was just a stressful kind of like binge or overtired, there's a few different things personally that would trigger me into it. But some of them wouldn't be as bad, nowhere near as bad as that.
It's interesting. Eating disorders and food is not my specialty. I'd actually always projected that everybody who binge ate did it for the same reason I did, which is anxiety and loneliness, and it switches off those feelings. So because I've never myself binge eaten out of feelings of self-loathing, I didn't actually know that was a thing. So I've learned something here. So that you had multiple triggers and multiple reasons, but all roads would lead to Rome, and it would
pretty
be
much,
binge eating,
yeah. Slightly different rituals, I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much the same.
And sometimes you would be eating food and you'd be thinking, I'm not enjoying this anymore, but I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, lots of times, especially when I was going through a pretty rough patch like 2020. That was definitely the feeling that I got around those times. Like,
right.
That it was like, you just need to keep going until everything's gone.
This was 2020 during lockdown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, just before that, yeah.
Just before that.
Yeah.
What a fantastic time for everybody, 2020 was. Because the other side of this is I generally speaking, I don't worry too much about genetic and biological preponderance for psychological issues. I'm just like, it's probably mainly learned. But when I was at binge eating, I also always enjoyed it. So I've even wondered if I'm wired a bit differently, because I can get fat very, very. I don't think you've ever known me particularly fat, have you?
No, I've seen you fluctuate a little bit, but not much.
Not massively.
No,
I've been very, very large indeed. I'll send you some pictures afterwards. When I lived in Malaysia, I got very, very overweight. But I never hit a point where I was like, oh, I'm not enjoying this anymore.
Right.
I was just like, my brain was just broken on, this is great, keep going.
Yeah.
The pleasure centers were still giving me that sense that like, it was all good. Similarly with cocaine, because I'd snort coke with other people, and they'd be like, oh, I think I've had enough and I'll stop. And I'm like, I don't know what enough is. This is great. Let's just keep going until we're all dead. And I think that is a biological genetic preponderance. I don't know. I suspect it could be.
Yeah, I feel like mine is anything that I've done obsessively or to like the extreme. It's always been because I've just gone because I feel like it has to be gone, or it's a self-harm. Like I've had from when I was a teenager, I've had issues like trichotillomania, dermatillomania, cutting, that kind of thing.
Could you tell people what these the hair and skin issue is?
Yes. So trichotillomania is compulsive hair pulling. So that might be like I'd pull out my eyelashes. So I'd have no eyelashes whatsoever, like on my eyes. I used to mask it very well with false eyelashes and makeup. And then dermatillomania is compulsive skin picking. And a lot of people have this without knowing that they have it.
Right.
But I would have little sores like in my scalp and stuff like that.
And that was from early teens?
Yeah, I was 14. My nan passed away really suddenly from pancreas cancer. And my mum just didn't know how to cope with it. She's schizoaffective herself. So her mental health plus my nan dying, and it just threw the whole family dynamic apart. And I just, being the eldest child, just scurried off to try and be an adult and deal with it on my own when I didn't ever really process it or grieve with it properly.
And you wouldn't have had the skills for it. You wouldn't have been equipped for that.
Not at all.
Schizoaffective, is that like being schizophrenic?
It is. It's manic bipolar, but with some voices as well.
Okay. So the schizo is the same schizo as schizophrenia, but the affective, I guess, is the emotional, the effect on mood.
Yes.
Yeah, the up and down of the mood. Interesting, because what you're describing sounds like an effort to sort of control ups and downs. So then I was going to say, I would have gone down the route of saying, oh, well, what creates your emotional dysregulation? But actually it would have been your mother's emotional dysregulation.
Yes.
Would have patterned you for emotional dysregulation.
Yeah.
Were there issues with your stepfather as well, or was he fairly stable?
He's pretty stable. Yeah, okay. He's really strong for my mom, and he was fine at the point in time. I think he just didn't really know how to cope being not my biological father. How do I deal with this situation?
Right.
My mum got angry at me for self-harming initially.
How old were you when she first found that you were self-harming?
It was just before my nan's funeral.
So you were 14.
Yeah.
And she got angry with you.
Yeah, which is a response, isn't it? Yeah. You can't always control what your response is. And that made me kind of conceal it, I think, a bit more. So I went to a counsellor when I was like 18 because the hair pulling of my eyelashes was getting me so depressed.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I couldn't have no makeup on in front of like a boyfriend, or I felt very self-conscious about it. And they helped me piece together a timeline that my self-harming from when my nan passed away was connected, because then I moved on to the hair pulling, which was a lot more secretive, and the skin picking, which was also a lot more secretive. And then that's led me into the food thing, which I understand now as an adult. And it's just how I was wired, I suppose.
Self-harm, any cutting?
Yes. Yeah. Initially it was cutting.
Of arms?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd cut like the tops of my arms and my wrists here, like underneath.
Yeah. Yeah. Sames. What do you think, how long ago did the self-harm stop? That kind of cutting, how long was that?
That was very short-lived, that sort of self-harm. It was probably months, I think, because my mum saw it. So I knew that she'd be checking for that. And it did hurt, and it wasn't very nice, and my bed sheets would be covered in blood because I'd try and hide it, and then my mum would shout at me because I got blood everywhere. So I knew that one probably had to change quite quickly.
Yeah. Apart from your mother, was there anything else that had happened that was creating that level of, obviously I can hear emotional dysregulation, but there's also, I don't know if you know this, the psychiatric terms where you start to see yourself as a bad object, or psychoanalytic term. So you don't see yourself as being lovable. You see yourself as wrong or corrupt in some way. Was there anything other aside from your mum?
I think I'm kind of aware now in my adult life. So there's 3 siblings. I have a brother and a sister, and we all have different dads. And I think I always kind of felt as a child that I was not good enough to be part of their family when it was the next child and father.
Are you the eldest?
Yes.
You're the eldest?
The eldest, yeah.
So when the other 2 siblings came along for the 2 different dads, you had the feeling that you weren't lovable or
I wasn't
acceptable.
part of the family. I'm the different one again. The black sheep kind of, I think, is what I was kind of feeling.
Okay.
And then that was also affirmed at different variations of time in my life. So when I was in preschool, I remember that I had a friend and I had another friend, and they became best friends and left me on my own.
Interesting.
And then the same thing happened when I was like in college. 2 friends became great friends, and then I wasn't their friend anymore.
Any idea why that was happening?
I don't know.
No.
I really don't know. But I remember those as strong sort of emotional micro traumas probably.
Yeah.
To affirm this.
Oh, they're just traumas. They're not micro traumas. That's actually pretty.
They're normal traumas.
That's a proper trauma.
Yeah.
That's not a little one.
So I think I remember those, and I feel like that's what's affirmed this. I'm not good enough to be part of a family, to be part of a friendship, to be part of a relationship. In my own body.
And your biological father, your parents separated, and then did you lose contact with him?
No, so I met him properly when I was about 7 years old.
Okay.
So I kind of thought my brother's dad was my dad for a long while. And then I met him when I was about 7 or 8, maybe. It was around the time that the Star Wars Phantom Menace came out.
Oh, God.
Because we went to see that.
What a horrifying moment in cinematic history. More traumatic than anything else. Okay. It's a interview. It's not a counselling session.
No,
did anybody hit you?
No.
Interesting. You hit you. Well, you cut yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. The predominant feeling that you got from that was a sense of, so you already felt rejected.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd felt rejected from quite a young age.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Was it partly because your biological father wasn't around? Did you feel like he wasn't interested in you, or?
I don't remember having any feelings like that. But obviously, like in my adult life, I understand psychology similarly to you, and how it works within me internally, and how it leads you into certain pathways to narcissistic relationships and all that kind of thing.
Which we will get to.
Yeah, we're leading there. So I understand how it works. So I must have at many points in my childhood felt rejected or pushed out, or like I had to win affection.
Yeah, yeah. A new relationship with your mother, presumably with the issues that she has, her love wouldn't have been consistent.
It was quite turbulent, I think. Yeah.
Was she often angry?
I think she was often quite stressed, and I think I felt like I didn't want to upset her or trigger her in any way.
How would her stress manifest? Was it manifest as anger?
It manifested as binge eating.
In your mother?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. So I remember her being yo-yo dieting and not happy in her body, and she would binge eat quite a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking, obviously, yes, you're aware of psychology. We are raised in an environment, you've got nothing else to compare it to. You don't know, and sometimes abuse is direct. Like I have specific instances of direct abuse in my own life, and sometimes I was just ignored. And I'm not sure now, I'm 44, and I've been studying this for years. I'm not sure now what did the most harm. It's still a communication to a child if you're not there. It's still a communication, even if as a parent you can't control it. Like, I don't know, you went to prison or you joined the army or something. The child will still, or you die. The child still experiences that as a rejection. And it creates a lot of anger and potential self-loathing. So your mum was stressed and she would binge eat. Was she ever supportive or kind, or?
I don't remember those. And I know she must have been, because I had all the toys and I had nice clothes and we went to a nice school and all of those things. But those memories are not strong of me having real loving, supportive moments until I was sort of in my later years. Now I have more of those moments with my mum.
You do? Yeah,
now I do, yeah.
Okay. Because perhaps she couldn't deal with you as a child, but she can deal with you as an adult. I
think so. Yeah. It's possibly, I think it's more to do with her own understanding of how she works as well as mine.
Yes.
I think she now understands a lot of what's happened to me is kind of her fault, but not her fault, because she couldn't help it.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of guilt now when she's a bit older, and now she's
mellowed.
Yeah.
Was she young when she had you?
Yes, she was 20.
Oh, God. Yeah. I say, oh, God, because sometimes I think, what would I have been like if I'd had a kid when I was 20?
And I was too busy taking drugs.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So by the time, then the child would have been 8 when I was 28, which I was like peak idiocy in my life. They definitely would have ended up in therapy because I just didn't know anything. I was 20. I was a complete idiot. Yeah, that is young. So with age now, she can see, she has more understanding and awareness.
Yeah. She's gone to different therapies as well, which has helped her understand her own traumas and childhood issues. You know, she has lots of issues herself. Like, so
I'm projecting slightly from my own experience, but that's what you have to do. Did you feel like you were a burden to her?
yeah, I think I did at intervals, not always, but I definitely did at intervals. Yeah, and I think I grew up very fast to try and be more independent.
Because being a child was risky?
Maybe. I think I needed to be an adult because I also saw my mum as very vulnerable too.
Right. Okay. So she needed you to be more of an adult because she couldn't.
Yeah, I needed to look after her.
Parentification, I think that's called.
Yeah.
Which means, again, that you negate your own needs for those of another. Wonderful, wonderful codependency.
We are.
We are here. We have our gifts. Overgiving is one of them. So that's interesting. I'm just sorting everything in my brain. There it is. It's sorted. Yeah, I can see that because obviously I know parts of your story, and I can deduct a certain amount as well. Which we all do. You gather information from people by, you see how they interact, how they're acting, and whatever else. But that's interesting. When I remember first talking to you, and we weren't talking about gym stuff, it was specifically around emotional dysregulation and binge eating, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did we have a conversation around binge eating and food being related to safety and feeling safe? Was that one of the things?
I think so. At the point in time that we started speaking, it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because obviously if you're raised in a highly unsafe, an environment where you can't feel safe, not because of direct abuse or whatever, the children are needy. They have lots of needs in order to feel safe. Then food can be a way of making yourself feel safe if you don't.
Comfort, isn't it?
It's comfort. Yeah. It's comfort. Yeah. So really it's the last few years then where you've sort of gotten a hold of the emotional dysregulation. Because you were experiencing intense flashbacks when we started talking, weren't you?
Yeah, that was from the narcissistic abuse, wasn't it?
Okay. Let us go. We will open the door. Tell me about your experience of narcissistic abuse. Throat clear.
Yeah. I've unfortunately had 2 narcissistic relationships in my adult years. One was when I first started working at the gym, and I dated a guy who also works there for a bit. It was probably about a year on and off. It was very subtle, and I felt like he was speaking to other girls and there was other stuff going on, and I'd question about it, and then he made me feel worthless in myself, that I had nothing going for me. No one will ever come to you for PT because you don't know anything. Okay. You only know what you know about powerlifting because of me.
Right.
You shouldn't wear shorts in the gym. You're fat.
Nice.
People need to see what you really look like. You're hiding yourself behind your social media. You only post those photos because you want boys' attention. And there was constant cycles of that kind of thing, which really teared me down with how I saw myself.
Yeah.
And I kind of really lost who Emily was at that point in time.
How long were you with him for?
It was a year on and off.
Were you living together?
No.
But you had enough contact with him and you saw him in the gym that
it was every day. It was a significant impact. And he was very much in my life all of the time. And if I wasn't with him, he didn't trust me. What were you doing? Yeah. I need to know where you are at this point in time, this point in time, this point in time.
Yeah.
I had a really good supportive network at the gym, which helped me through that one, because I knew I needed to end that relationship.
Yeah.
He left quite quietly and has since then tried to engage contact with me in a few different ways, which I've rejected, obviously. And I didn't know how much that relationship had affected me until I found my next one.
Yeah.
And obviously I thought I was fine because I was going out about my powerlifting. I'd got to world championships and I was doing really well. And I just started seeing this guy and I thought he was quite shy. He was quite quiet, not like the past partner who was very sort of grandiose. And I'm the best at deadlifts and I'm the best at this, and very grandiose and overt. And this next guy was extremely subtle, very quiet, very shy. I felt sorry for him. He wined and dined me. And I was only seeing him for about 3 months. And I felt like he was messaging other girls. There were signs that I'd noticed as a pattern from the first relationship. So I was very quick to be like, I'm not happy with these and these are red flags. I understood what narcissistic abuse was kind of then because I'd researched it. And I spotted the signs very quickly and I was like, I'm just not cool with this. It's a really long story, but a long story short is I found out he was dating another girl.
At the same time.
At the same time. And I decided to end the relationship, rightfully so. And this guy decided to try and destroy my life.
Right.
Because I'd pulled down the mask of who he was inside. He came for me. He targeted me, my business. He messaged my clients. He messaged the owners of the gym. He messaged my landlord to try and tell them that I was supplying drugs, or obviously he didn't know about my past and that I quit drugs a long time ago and I was quite, the other way. He said that he would phone HMRC and report me for tax evasion. All of these things that were like, I just felt like I can't escape this guy. And he would say, you'll know what I'll do if you don't stay friends with me. I'll report you to HMRC. I will do this. I will do that. Blackmailing. He stalked me. I'd see his car all the time following me, and then he'd send me pictures and be like, I've just seen you here.
If he was that into you, why didn't he just stay faithful to you?
Why? That is the question, isn't it? I ended up blocking about 24 Instagram accounts, I think. An email address. He messaged me on MyFitnessPal. Yeah.
That's a first.
I know.
I hear all kinds of stories. I ain't never heard that before.
MyFitnessPal. Quite odd, the message, because he said that he'd looked through my food diaries and noticed that I'd tracked binges.
Okay.
And he was concerned about me.
Right. I'm sure he was.
Yeah, I'm sure he was as well. By this point in time, obviously, I had spoke to you about it because I needed your help. And I'd also gone to the police as well.
Right. For the stalking and...
The stalking, yeah, because I felt like he wasn't going to leave my life at any point in time.
Yeah.
He'd also threatened with like some nude images. So obviously I know that is revenge porn, and that serves quite a hefty sort of sentence. There was also another incident that's probably quite important to mention. There was an evening where there was a rape incident, and I had to report that to the police as well. And this was another reason why I felt that it was important that I did contact the police for my own safety as well, because I felt like he was just going to keep coming and coming, and then there'd just be a time where I'd be walking and then that's me gone.
Yeah.
So,
which does happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's not outside the realms of possibility. This does absolutely happen. So I remember you discussing the stalking thing and saying like you've got to log everything and you have to contact the police and everything else. With the sexual assault, there was an ongoing scenario with him, wasn't there, where he kept putting himself in your physical space where you didn't want him to be anyway. Like he was imposing on you physically anyway.
He'd turn up at my house.
Yeah.
And
then that evolved into an actual assault.
Yeah.
The police's response when I'd advised you to go to the police and I was telling you how wonderful they were going to be wasn't wonderful, was it?
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard. And I felt like I wasn't being listened to for a long time. And that made me feel like I'd felt like I was getting somewhere because I'd have another interview and then there'd be nothing because he'd still be contacting me. He'd still be writing messages. He'd still be no caller IDing me all the time.
Yeah.
And that's sort of around the time that lockdown hit, wasn't it? I think
so.
A really good friend of mine was like, well, you're not safe at home, so you come and live with me.
And he didn't know where he'd gone then.
And then I was away, I was safe.
Yeah.
Because he didn't know where I was.
Yeah.
And that was probably the best thing that ever happened.
The what I thought was going to happen was that they would, when you report it, they'd send a female officer trained in these cases straight away to your house, but that wasn't what happened. When was the first interview? Was it a week after you reported it, or
It was about a week after, yeah.
And it was a female officer that
Yeah,
that
there
came.
was 2 females, I think, yeah.
But generally speaking, the progress with the whole thing was pretty.
It was extremely slow.
Yeah.
It was extremely slow. And I just think that I don't know, I just felt like I wasn't a priority, and I felt like they didn't think it was as serious as what I was saying.
With that kind of a scenario, what concerns me, I'm sure it concerns you, is that many women would just give up.
Yeah.
Halfway through, if it takes 7 days for the police to come and they're not that keen on listening anyway or doing anything
I
about it.
thought about it. I was like, is it even worth it?
Yeah.
Like, maybe if I just let it go, he'd leave me alone.
Yeah.
But then the fear was stronger than the other side of it. Like, I genuinely feared my life. I was suicidal in lockdown because of it, because I felt like I was bringing all of this horror to everyone around me. Once again, I am a burden to my family, my friends, because I was on the floor shaking and crying, and my friend didn't know how to comfort me.
Did they know what had happened?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He knew everything.
Yeah.
And he was just he was a good support.
Yeah.
I think he just found it very hard to say, you know?
Yeah. There's not really much that can be said. Eventually, though, the police did come through. They did take the case seriously.
Yep.
Did you get the feeling they didn't take the case seriously because he was an ex-boyfriend?
No, I don't know. I think it was a little bit to do with they didn't know how to cope with it being the lockdown as well, because there was so much toing and froing with when they were allowed to do interviews, and because obviously everyone should have been under lockdown restrictions that people shouldn't be traveling through counties, but you know, a narcissist doesn't believe that they have any laws or boundaries. So
how far away was he coming?
He at the time lived in Stoke-on-Trent.
So it was a good 45 minutes
To the Wirral, yeah.
to the Wirral. Did he come to the gym?
He turned up at the gym at one point. So by this point, I'd had an injunction just about to go through.
Yeah.
And on the day of his trial, I think with the injunction, he parked in the gym car park. He must have seen me. And he was walking down Arrowbrook Lane. And I was walking up to go to the gym. I was just doing some maintenance work because it was when we were starting the refurb, I think, one of the refurbs. And he was walking down and come to meet me head on.
Right.
And I shit myself. And I darted across the road. A car had to slam on the brakes, and I ran into the gym and phoned the police then. And he just sat in his car and waited for the police to turn up. And they were like, "Why are you here?" And he was like, "Well, it's just a chance meeting, isn't it?" And then from that point in time, they closed the injunction to include the gym and the surrounding areas of the gym.
Right.
And also my parents' road, because I think then they realised, well, he's playing the game, isn't he?
Yeah. So they did slowly start to take this a little bit more seriously. What was the end result of, because eventually it went to court.
Yeah.
And how did that go?
It went to, I think, 3 different trials. He pleaded not guilty to 3. We had 3 charges against him. One was obviously rape. There was a stalking and harassment charge, and also a witness intimidation charge.
Yep.
And he pleaded not guilty to all of those at the first 2 trials. And then eventually we ended up in Crown Court, which was March this year.
And that Crown Court was not Chester, it was Liverpool Crown Court.
Yes.
What did he change his plea to? What did he plead guilty to? All 3 or?
He guilty to everything bar the rape.
Okay. And how did the court view that? What was the end result?
So he changed his plea just before the trial started so that we would only have to go on trial for the rape on its own as an isolated charge.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had to go through a lot of what happened, and I think it would have gone more in my favor if it had been all three, because they mirror. And obviously rape is about power and control, isn't
Yes.
it? And stalking and harassment and witness intimidation is power and control.
Yeah.
And a lot of the evidence crosses over.
Yeah.
We didn't get a guilty verdict for the rape, but he has got a suspended sentence.
Okay.
And I have an injunction for life.
For life.
And he had to do a relationships course and community service as well.
Okay. So he's known to the police and he has a suspended sentence. Do you know how long that lasts for, the suspended sentence?
It's 2 years, unless something triggers it in the meantime.
Okay. And since all of this, he's stopped?
Yeah. It stopped probably when I got that injunction. It was a non-molestation order, actually. When I got the non-molestation order, I think that's when I think he finally realised, oh, she actually has gone to the police now.
Presumably his parents and his family must be somewhat aware of the charges against him.
I don't think they are.
Okay, he's kept that from them somehow.
My stepdad stayed in court through the whole trial.
Yeah.
And it came out at the end that he didn't tell any of his family.
Ah, okay. Okay. The situation he faces with the suspended sentence obviously would be if anything else did happen and then he got the sentence, it would be a custodial sentence.
Correct, yeah.
And prisoners who are guilty of this kind of thing usually, if the other inmates find out what he's in for, they usually get a pretty hard time. So he must at least be somewhat nervous about that.
I can't answer, but
I would imagine.
Typical narcissist way of thinking.
So
who knows? So
to a degree, justice was served somewhat.
Yeah, I feel safe now.
Yeah.
And I believe that I needed to go through this shift to really learn about who I was as a person.
Yeah.
Obviously, it pushed me into speaking to you and Terry. And that really helped me not only get over the narcissistic abuse, but understand why I am codependent in my nature and a people pleaser. Why that also is the reason why I was binge eating, how to understand all of these psychological issues that I'd had for a long time without really realizing that they were affecting me now.
Yeah.
And I was able to do a lot of my healing work and then also learn about it in your eyes as the psychologist. And I did a course in CBT and life coaching and neurolinguistic programming. So then I understand it so well that I can help other people.
Yeah.
And I know that's a very people pleaser thing to say, but I feel good for helping people and I feel good for being open and vulnerable about what's happened to me. So then I can use that to go forward. That's how I see this part of my life.
What would you advise to women watching who are in a similar position to the one that you were in?
I mean, going through the police was hard. It was hard, and scary, very scary. I did think for a long time, he's going to think he's going to go to prison anyway, so he might just come and murder me. And that was a lot of the feelings that I got. I still felt unsafe and I thought I was probably going to kill myself and end it before he did. It was the best thing that I did because it really helped me to understand who I was as a person, because I'd lost Emily and she was gone, completely gone. And through looking at this and tackling it, it helped me to learn who I was again.
Yeah.
I've really reconnected with who I am as a person. I'm extremely authentic. I'm happier than I've ever been.
Yeah.
I understand life the best that I ever have. I have little to no issues around food, and that I genuinely do say that. Don't look at drugs. Like, that's not even a blink in the thought of my consciousness anymore. Like, I feel really healed from most of my things. You know, we all have things that are ongoing forever. But I feel like I understand myself better than I ever have. And it's because I faced this. Anything, like, nothing good ever comes easy, does it? And you have to lean into the uncomfortable and really look into those dark parts of your mind, I think, to really challenge it and move forward.
Yeah.
So I think if anyone feels trapped, to get a really good supportive network around you and to try and really understand what's happening to you and also that it's not your fault, and that you can move forward from it, and you can be successful, and you can change your life.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't got children, and I wasn't tied in by a marriage or anything like that. So I can't speak on behalf of those women, but I can speak on behalf of other people who have experienced abuse, is that it's good to get the help that you need. You just got to know where to look for it.
Yeah. Yes. What, when it comes to the narcissistic, the abusive relationship, you're in a new relationship now.
I am, yes.
This one is not narcissistically abusive.
No.
How did you do that?
There is light at the end of the tunnel.
I'm sure a lot of people would like to know, how did you break that pattern of being in abusive relationships and get into a good one?
Yeah, so that's a nice story. This is nice. So obviously coming out of an extremely abusive relationship that I had to go to the police for, I was extremely resilient to the idea of a relationship for a good long while. In my head, I was like, right.
Resistant, you mean?
Oh, yes, resistant. Yeah. I was like, in my head, I'm just going to focus on myself. I want to focus on my powerlifting, my coaching, and use what I've learnt about psychology to harness helping more of my clients. And initially, my partner now, he asked for my help, mainly coaching help, which
strength training.
Yeah, weight training, which actually never happened.
That's good. That's a good way in. Hey, could you help me with some lifts? I'm not interested in anything. I just want your number.
And he was going through a rough patch in a relationship too.
Yep.
He'd just come out of a relationship and she had been cheating on him and that kind of thing. And it was emotionally abusive and that kind of thing. And it was similar to the narcissistic experience that I'd been through. And I shared on my social media quite openly about cycles, just to raise awareness of red flags and that kind of thing. Yeah. And we got talking and we went for a big walk. And I was kind of like, no, I feel like you're a nice person and you just need help.
Yeah.
And obviously that's a people pleaser's dream. And we just started seeing more of each other, training together. We'd go on little walks together. And I already knew in my head that I needed to get to know someone on a one-on-one basis before I could ever think about a relationship again. Become friends, learn that person, learn if they have any self-awareness or not.
How very old-fashioned of you. It's almost as though the old ways of doing things were better.
Oh, yes. So I just wanted to get to know him as him.
Yeah.
Not as, you might be my boyfriend.
Yeah.
It was, you are an individual. I'm going to get to learn you. Something I was interested in was if he had any self-awareness or not. Do you understand your toxic traits? Do you have anything you're working on, healing from? Because I want to know about it, because I am. And I think it's important that two partners are mirroring that kind of healing work. And we both found it very difficult, especially in the initial stages when our relationship mirrored a lot of things that had happened in our more abusive relationships.
Yes.
And we had to learn that it wasn't the same and we were projecting on each other.
Yeah.
And how we could then openly communicate in a safe environment to talk about how we were feeling and not get angry.
Yeah.
And not get upset or not feel like you have to conceal anything from that person. And we both very gently came towards it together and we talked. It was very difficult for us both.
Intimacy is terrifying.
Yeah, it's really scary to talk about, I feel like this and expecting someone to lash it back at you. And it didn't happen. And I'd be shaking, trying to tell him something, how I felt. And he'd be the same, or he'd just be avoidant in his...
You'd both been punished for being vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly. And then we both just kind of challenged that together and moved forward. And now I'm in, like, what are we, like, maybe 18 months being in a relationship together. We've not really ever had an argument. We've had open discussions. We've communicated. We've shown areas of vulnerability. We don't hide anything from each other. Yeah, it's the best relationship I've ever been in because I've healed through.
What is all this adult relationship advice that's going on right now? You can't tell people this. They'll not be lonely anymore and they'll have intimacy. This will get cancelled. This is all going to get deleted. So being honest, being vulnerable, accepting your own darkness, the potential darkness in somebody else. Sounds like you moved forward slowly and carefully.
Yeah, gently, very sure-footed, I'd like to say.
Yeah.
And I didn't run away with the idea of a relationship too.
Amazing.
And I think
How did you achieve that?
That's a really important thing, I think.
Put it in a box, we'll sell it.
Yeah, I think it's important. I didn't lose who I was. And every other relationship I'd kind of had, I'd want to mirror their personality, or I'd want to jump on their traits or their ideas. And I was like, no.
How did you stop yourself from this impulse to merge or get involved in the fantasy of the person as the boyfriend?
Because of what I went through.
Because it was so painful.
Yeah. I wanted to, and I feel like it's a weird coping mechanism that I've got now, that I have to psychoanalyze every single person that I come across to kind of suss them out first. And I thought, if I'm going to open my heart to anyone ever again, I'm going to have to work them out, help them work them out, and then we can work it out.
Yeah. Very conscious. Very
extremely
conscious.
Yeah.
The intimacy can create shadow activation. So as we get close to each other, it's normal, it's common for the shadow to sort of, the darker side of ourselves to be activated by that. And then that is, as you rightly said, it's reflected in the other person. Somewhere along the line, you started to trust each other.
Yeah.
Because of the consistency of action. You weren't condemning each other.
Words and actions, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the actions matched the words.
Okay.
And that was a very long, slow process. He didn't want to call us a relationship until about 6 months into it.
6 months to get to know somebody.
But I think that's good.
Yeah, that's fine.
There was definite boundaries.
Yeah.
And I didn't let them down.
You didn't start living with each other the first weekend you knew each other.
We don't live together now.
I should be getting coaching from you. I usually wait 5 days. Like, there's a key. Move in. Where's your toothbrush? Why is your toothbrush here? I don't know you. And you come. Intimacy-wise, you were not impacted negatively by the experience that you'd had. There's no issue with intimacy between the two of you.
No.
Okay.
Not for me, because it was different.
Yeah.
Like in the more narcissistic relationships, both of them actually, I'd noticed that sex intimacy was kind of like, it was rougher. It wasn't thinking about me.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like very self-serving for them.
Do you know, it's the same with women, which it's hard to imagine. Like, narcissistic women are rough.
Right.
They're so rough, like physically, and they want to be treated roughly, that and I've spoken to a couple of guys, I've never spoken about this publicly before, when guys who've been in relationships with narcissistic women, they then get with a normal girl, the girl then will say like, this is a bit rough, dude. Like,
yeah, what are you doing?
Like, what are you doing? And then we all had the same experience, be like, oh my God, I'm that guy. This is horrible, and feeling overwhelmed with guilt. But I don't know. I don't really know why it is, but there seems to be something around. Obviously, there's something around objectification, but it's not just objectification of your partner; it's also objectification of the self.
Yeah.
Like, so if you're a woman in that context, you want to be objectified.
Yes, I did reading about that too.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely did.
Yeah.
And I was prepared. Like, I'd read about women fantasizing about rape once they'd been raped and all those things, and I was fully prepared for those feelings. I feel fortunate I didn't really have those.
Yes. Yeah.
Initially, I think I wanted rougher sex, but I didn't. When I was like going through it, I'd be like, oh, I'm not really.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I want this.
Yes. Yeah. That it's we should probably do another podcast at some time. It's a difficult one to unpack, and it's interesting. I find it fascinating because, well, within psychology, we sort of say everything is childhood and everything is trauma, and I think we overstate that. And somebody's specific boundaries for what is and what isn't rough sex could be different. Could be very, very different. And sometimes as well, I think in my experience as a man with women, actually they were fearful of intimacy. They didn't want eye contact. I've had girls, like multiple, like 4 or 5 girls tell me off for being too nice. Eye contact, kissing, just like holding. No, it's got to be a rough porn scene or nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, every time? That's exhausting.
Yeah.
Really, there isn't a spectrum there. It's like this, and it's repetitive and machine-like.
Yeah.
I want
like
this
it's
same
conditioning,
experience.
isn't it?
Conditioning response.
1,000,000%. I like to see sex now as more of an exchange of energy.
Right.
And that helps me kind of have a more holistic idea about what it is.
Right.
And that it can be anything that the beholder, deems it to be.
Interesting, because I think that can only work under 2 conditions, which makes it very different in our modern culture. One is you can't fear intimacy if you're viewing it that way. It's just not permitted because you're opening yourself to somebody. And the idea is, don't open yourself. Do everything physically intimate, but nothing psychologically or emotionally intimate seems to be the order of the day. And also, to do what you're doing, you need to trust your own boundaries.
Yes.
And I think most people don't now. They really struggle with their own boundaries.
It's taken me a long time.
Yeah. Well, not that long. You're pretty young, but then you've suffered a lot. You've been tortured a lot. And that seems to strengthen people.
Strength of the body and the mind.
The strength of the body and the mind. We have a few minutes left. Let us speak of the lifting of the heavy things.
Oh, very quickly.
You've got a competition coming up soon?
Next weekend.
Next weekend. Now, powerlifting competitions, you were explaining to me the other day as I was eating my chicken salad. How does this work, powerlifting meet? What happens when you go to a powerlifting meet?
So you usually weigh in the day before.
Yeah.
We all compete in a weight class.
Yeah.
And then we all lift on the day. So we would all do a squat first.
Yeah.
You take 3 attempts at each lift. You submit your numbers, and you just place accordingly to the lift that you do.
Yeah.
Like obviously the biggest number for your weight class is the winner.
Yeah.
Then you'd all do the same on a bench press and the same on a deadlift. And then you have like prizes at the end, like winning totals and that kind of thing.
For people who don't know anything about this is standard powerlifting competition. It's three events, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
The squat, you put the heavy thing on your back and then you go down and you squat.
You sit down and then you stand back up again.
You stand back up again. I hate it. The deadlift, the thing is heavy, it's on the ground. You pick it up in front. Instead of putting it on your back, you pick it up in front of you. You straighten up and you put it down.
Yes.
I fucking hate that one. And then the bench press, well, every day is chest day, so I love that
You
one.
lie down and you push it away.
You lie down and you push it away. You play with gravity. There's a lot of gravity playing.
Yes.
But you told me you've already won a competition and you're world ranked.
Yes.
Or world.
So in 2019, I did my first ever powerlifting meet.
Yeah.
Got myself to British Championships.
Amazing.
Qualified for World Championships and came 7th in that.
Yeah.
Lockdown happened, fucked everything up.
Yeah.
And then last year I won British Championships for my weight class.
That's amazing. To whomst will we give credit for your powerlifting journey? Who put you into powerlifting? Who trained you through powerlifting?
I mostly trained myself.
You chose powerlifting and you said, I'm going to do that.
Yeah. It kind of come from the early training days. I thought I wanted to be a bodybuilder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Relationship with food was terrible or awful idea.
Right.
Made it worse.
Right. Oh, really?
Yes. Well,
of course, in the body
bodybuilding.
dysmorphia.
Yeah.
It will give you, yeah, of course.
So I tried strongman, was shit at everything apart from deadlifts.
Okay.
So, the Atlas stones and that kind of thing.
Yes.
I was crap at all that apart from deadlifts.
Yeah.
And then I knew someone that did powerlifting and I was like, your physique is amazing.
Yeah.
I want to have a go at that.
Cool. The strongman thing is weird. I have a friend from Hong Kong. His name is Reg Wong. He watches some of my stuff. Hello, Reg. And one day, out of the blue, he says, oh, I'm coming over to the UK. I'm going to do a strongman event. It's somewhere in the Northwest. And I don't know where it is. Can I stay at your house? I was like, yeah, absolutely. You could just come stay at my house. He was like, it's at this gym. It's called Empowered something or other. I was like, you mean the gym I'm training at, Empowered Fitness? And he was like, yes. Because we had 1 year like a strongman. I think we've had a couple of strongman
That might
events
have been
there.
the one that I did, outside.
Yeah.
I think that was the one that
Was
I
that
did.
the one that you did?
Yeah.
Oh.
I came last.
Did you really? How many women were competing that day?
I think there was about 12.
Oh fuck yeah! I would have been there with you when you were doing that then. Because I didn't know what a strongman event was. I was watching people like the Atlas stones. I looked at that and I was like, you are all deranged. That is so that's just dangerous. I went into mum mode. I was like, put that down. You're going to hurt yourself. I think Reg, when he came up, I don't think he did great on that because he just wasn't used to it. There was, I don't know if you remember, there was a guy who was of a very slight build who did amazing. He was a youngish guy, not one you would have picked out of the crowd. The yoke event.
Yeah.
He slaughtered that event.
Fast.
Yeah, he was fast, and he just picked this thing up and ran along with it. I was like, you don't look, but I guess it's everything that you trained for.
Size and strength are two different things.
Right.
So the biggest guy in the room might not be the strongest.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Often they're not. Often the biggest guy in the room.
Well, that's why you can have really lightweight classes in powerlifting and they still get stronger.
Yes.
Because they don't get heavier, they don't get bigger.
Yeah.
It's down to the core of the muscle growing as opposed to the external part of the muscle growing.
So this is a subject, is something, powerlifting is something that you really enjoy studying, and you're deep into this.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been powerlifting for?
Since 2018, I started the training and I competed for the first time in 2019.
Okay, so you are at the beginning of your powerlifting journey, really, aren't you?
I would say so,
you're
yeah.
a young powerlifter.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And is this something you're training other people to do as well?
I am now, yeah.
Cool.
It's nice. I've got clients that seem to be quite inspired by the powerlifting, and I gear my training towards like periodization, and we all peak to a 1 rep max.
Yeah.
So I gear them for, endurance. We do hypertrophy and we do strength.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it was best for me, especially around mental health, that my clients had a performance-based goal.
Yes.
It wasn't an aesthetic goal.
Yeah.
I wasn't working on body transformations. I was working on, health coaching as well as, strength coaching.
Yeah.
The physique for me was a happy byproduct of enjoying the strength training.
Yes. Interesting. Because it is, I haven't done it for years. I was telling you the other day, I haven't done it for years, but it's you go into the gym with we're all lifting weights. And so outsiders to the gym, they're like, what are you on about? It's all the same thing. It really isn't. Your eating is different. Your mentality is different.
Yeah.
And then physically what you do in the gym and what you prioritize is it's worlds apart between bodybuilding and powerlifting.
1,000,000%. Yeah. It's about, you're focusing on a lift, not a muscle.
Yes.
You're focusing on a movement.
Yes.
Not the shape of your biceps.
Yes. Yes, I'll stick with bodybuilding.
I want the shape of the bicep.
I just want to look nice with her clothes on. Excellent. Well, what are your plans right now? What's the plans for the immediate future with your business and everything else that you're doing?
Keep going the way I'm going.
Yeah.
I really enjoy my job. I get a lot of satisfaction from it.
Yeah.
I've kind of delved a little bit more into strength and conditioning style of things.
Yes.
I've got quite a good sort of physio-based knowledge, and I actually help a lot of people with physio type work, which I really enjoy because it's quite different.
Yes.
And I have different shapes and sizes, clients, different strengths.
Yeah.
And just keep going the way that I'm going.
Are you ever going to be a counsellor?
Maybe.
You should.
I know.
You'd be good at it.
I like helping people. I think when I'm a bit older and I don't want to do 6 a.m. till 7 p.m. every single day, counselling might be something I kind of open.
Are you a water sign?
A water sign?
Are you a water sign? What sign are you?
I'm a Sagittarius.
Oh, interesting.
But I have a Leo moon and a Virgo rising.
You ever done tarot cards?
Yeah.
Of
course I am. I'm a raging hippie. I'm wearing crystals and everything.
I'm surprised that you said you're into rave music. I thought you were going to say you're into like metal music.
I am, but the raves that I go to are psychedelic trance.
Of course they are. Wow,
Look at me.
Raves. I've not been to a rave in a long time. I used to go to drum and bass ones.
Oh yeah, I like that too.
Yeah. But psychedelic trance, I would love to go to one. I would need to be off my face to do it, which obviously I'd never do. I would never take drugs because drugs are bad. Mom, if you're watching, let me repeat. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again.
Yeah.
And I appreciate everybody appreciates your vulnerability and honesty and your willingness to talk about everything you've spoken about. I'm sure it will help people. Those people it does help. If people want to talk, you're not a counsellor, but I presume that you could speak to people if somebody wanted to reach out to you and talk to you.
I'm open to everyone.
Yeah.
Honestly, as long as I have time available, obviously I will respond to anyone in my free time. Like I'm a safe place.
Yes. Don't be bombarding Emily with messages expecting free help, though. Do please offer to pay for people's time. It's called a boundary. We respect them. And my phone agrees with me. Where can they find you if they want to talk to you?
So I'm mainly active on Instagram.
Yeah.
And my Instagram handle is Psyched Emily.
Psyched Emily.
Yes.
She's psyched, bro. She's, if you go...
PSY, like psychedelic.
Psychedelic. If you go to my Instagram and put in PSY on who I'm following, you'll find Psyched Emily and pictures of unicorns.
I should be able to be found by my name as well, which is Emily Blastock.
Blastock.
Yeah.
There's not many Blastocks.
No.
Emily Blastock is another way of searching on Instagram. Emily, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention. We look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thank you.